Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. I am Mr. Kadim Khan and I am a lecturer in the Institute of Computing, Quart University of Science and Technology. Today we will take lecture number 14 of the subject of software engineering, in which we will discuss software project risk management. This is the discussion agenda. It contains the topic of possible software risk management process. The risk management process includes the activities of risk identification, risk analysis, risk planning, and risk monitoring. Risk management. Risk management is a managerial task in which a project manager is responsible for identifying different sort of the risks and then drawing up the plans to minimize their effects on the project. So risk management is basically a process, and it is the set of activities where the project manager has to identify all sort of the risks that can occur during the project, and also he is responsible to create the plans to minimize their effects on the projects. Remember that risk cannot be 100% resolved. Their effects can be minimized, but we cannot resolve the risk completely. So that's why there should be the plans which must minimize their effects on a project. Basically, a risk is a factor. It is certain problem that has a particular probability. So a risk is a probability that some adverse circumstances will occur. Basically, risk is a factor that can affect the quality, cost, or schedule of the project. And risk can be occur or cannot be occur. That means that risk may occur or may not occur. So we are not 100% sure that risk will always occur. Now, risks have many types. There are three main categories of the risk: project risk, product risk, and business risk. The project risk is the project risks are those risks which affect the schedule or resources of the project. Schedule means time required to complete the project, and resources mean different sort of hardware, softwares, and people resources required to complete the project. The product risk affects the quality or performance of a software being developed. So product risks are those risks which are relevant with the products, and they may affect the quality or the performance of the software being developed. So by this way the product is affected. And the business risk is a risk which can affect the organizational development or procuring the software. It in fact affects the business of the organization. For example, product competition is the business risk. Now, there we are discussing some sort of the software risk that may occur during the project development. So, basically, we have all these types of different risks. Now, the previous were very much generic. Now, these are the specific types of risk. So, staff turnover is a major risk. It has the effect on the project. Staff turnover risk can affect the project. Now, what is the staff turnover risk? Staff turnovers, as its name indicates, that the experienced staff member leave the project before it is being completed. So, the experienced staff member, in fact, they resign from the project and they unfinish their tasks. And when the another people, the another staff, they join the project, they will take long times to understand the work of the previous staff member. So by this way, the project risk will occur which will delay the project. Next one is the management change risk. Management change means that suddenly a new management comes with the different priorities. So that is the project risk also. So there will be a change of organization management with different priorities. So suddenly, if the organization change occur, then that means that this is the management change problem, and it will delay the project as well, because new management has some different priorities, different tasks, responsibilities, and different sort of expertise. So that's why they can delay the project. Another risk is the hardware unavailability risk. Hardware unavailability means the specified hardware used for the development of the project is unavailable for us. Then this is also the project risk. Hardware that is essential for the project will not be delivered on the schedule. So if the hardware is not available on the proper schedule, then the dependency problem may occur because we are depending on certain hardware which is not available for us. So that's why the project risk may occur. Requirement change. Requirements change mean it is the project and product risk. It can occur, it can affect the project and products both. So there will be a larger number of changes to the requirements than anticipated. Basically, if suddenly requirements change by the user or by any other stakeholders, then it can in fact affect the schedule of the project, and also it will rise the cost of the project. So that is the project and product risk. And suddenly, if the requirement change, then it will also affect the quality as well. Next one is the specification delays. Specification delays here means that the particular specification which are essential and interfaces are not available on the proper schedule. Then this is also project and product risk. So it is the specification of essential interfaces that are not available on the required schedule. So we are in fact having the problem of specification delay. Next one is size underestimate. Here by size means the size of the product. The size of the product can be measured in many ways. For example, function point matrix. In simple, there is the line of code which also represent the size of the product. This is the project and product risk. The size of the system has been underestimated. If the project manager underestimates the size of the product, that means that we have underestimated it, and it is in fact very much larger as we understood it. Then it will create the problem of schedule quality and also the budgeting problem. Then we have the case tool underperformance. Case means computer aided software engineering. Computer aided software engineering tools include all sort of the compilers, interpreters, database engines, and similarly operating system and other packages as well. This is the product risk. It can affect the product. So case tool which supports the projects that do not perform as anticipated or as we need. So the case tool, we understand that this case tool is very much better, but later on it creates problem for us during the development. So that's way it will affect the product. Technology change. If suddenly the technology change, that means the development technology under which we are developing the product changes, then it is the business risk. Business means that it affects the business of the organization. So we require new technology. By this way, we have to train our employee according to the new technology, and suddenly the technology has changed. So that is the business problem, and we need another budget or lot of money for buying the new technology. So this is the business risk. The underlying technology on which the system is built is superseded by the new technology. Superseded means it is in fact the new technology comes, new technology is launched in the market, and it has taken places then against the old technology. So we have to learn the new technology, then we will use the new technology. Next one is the product competition. This is also the business risk. A competitive product is marketed before the system is completed. Here we will provide the competition about the product. So if there are two companies which are in competitions, so basically if a company launches its products before than the other companies, then that particular company will gain the complete place in the market, and they have their business, while the other company which has delayed their products, and then products is launched by that company, the then company cannot gain the marketplace, and so that is the business risk. Now, risk management has a certain process. This is very much important process. The project manager uses this process to cope the risk and to handle the risk. So there are four different activities in the risk management process: risk identification, risk analysis, risk planning, and risk monitoring. First of all, we will do the risk identification. By this, we will identify the project risk. Here, all the risk of potential risk in the projects are identified and listed down. All the product risk and similarly all the business risks are identified. The identification of the risk analysis is also based on our experience. If this particular risk which was raised in the previous 10 projects, it is also the probability that this risk may also occur in the current project as well. Next one is the risk analysis. Assesses the likelihood and the consequences of these risks. Likelihood or consequences is the probability. So here we will assess the probability that the chances of occurrence for this risk. Risk planning. Next we will draw different sort of the plans to avoid or minimize the effect of the risk. So in this step we will develop different types of plans. The plans will be developed by the project manager to either to avoid or to minimize their effects on the risk. We cannot 100% resolve the risk, but we can minimize the effects of the risk. Next one is the risk monitoring. So all these three phases should be monitored. So monitoring is the risk throughout the project. We will monitor that whether this risk, which was low priority risk or low catastrophic risk, that may become a high catastrophic risk later on. So that's why monitoring is very much important. This is the diagrammatical representation of the risk management process. First of all, we will identify all sort of the risk and we will document these risks in the list of the potential risks. Then we will perform the risk analysis here and we will do prioritization of different risks based on their priorities, and also we will identify the occurrences of the risk. This will be possible only based on our experience. Then we will obtain a prioritized risk list. Next, we will create the planning to resolve the risk. Here we will define the risk avoidance, contingency, and minimization plans. Here we will define different sort of the plans to minimize the effectiveness of the risk. Then we have the risk monitoring. In the risk monitoring, we will monitor all the risks. It is possible that a low priority risk or a low effectiveness of the risk may become very much catastrophic risk later on. So that's why monitoring is very much important. So here we will assess each and every risk for their effectiveness. And this loop may again be continue. We continue from here. If the risk becomes more highly serious, then we will again perform the risk analysis for that particular risk. Then again we will create the new plan for that particular risk, and so on. We will do the monitoring again. Now we will discuss each and every phases of this risk management process in detail. First step was the risk identification. Here we will identify different types of risk, that is the technology risk, people risk, organizational risk, requirement risk, and estimation risk. So here the technology risk means technology change, people risk means the staff turnover risk, organizational risk means that certainly organization is restructured or the management of the organization suddenly changes. Then we have requirements risk means that if the user frequently changes its or her requirements. Then we have the estimation risk. Estimation means the size of the product is underestimated. So there are different sort of the risk: technology, people, organizational tools, requirements, and estimation risk. So technology risk means database used in the system cannot process as many transactions per second as expected. For example, data is too much slow. Then the technology problem will arise. And the software components that should be reused contains defects that limit their functionality. So for example, if we are using some binding components, so if their performance is not good and their defects, there are many defects in these particular components. So then this is the technology risk. People risk are those risks which means that are associated with the people. For example, the staff turnover risk are the for example skills problems of the employees. So it is possible to recruit the staff with the skill required. Key staff are ill and unavailable at the particular times. So required training for the staff is not available. Then the people risk can occur. And this is very much serious risk if the experienced staff members is not available with us. So then we cannot complete the products according to the standards. Then we have the organizational risk. The organization is restructured so that different management are responsible for the project. And suddenly changes in the organization occurs, then the organization financial problems force reduction in the project budget. So then we have to reduce the project's budget because we have suddenly changes in the organization and the new organization has different priority as compared to the previous one. So then the organization risk may occur. Next one is the tool risk. Tool risks are those risks which are associated with the case tools, and if these are inefficient case tools, then the case tool cannot be integrated. Should have a good quality case tools. Case tools are the computer aided software engineering tools which are used in the development of the project. Requirements are those risk. Requirement changes is a very much significant risk. Suddenly if the requirement change, then it will create the problem, and the required major design reviewers are proposed. So the customer failed to understand the impact of requirement changes. Usually, customer failed to understand that what will be the serious effects on the development of the project. But it has very serious effects because it will delay the project and we have to re-perform all the previous activities. Estimation. Estimation means the cost estimation, the size estimation. The time required to develop the software is underestimated. That is, the rate of the defect repairs is underestimated and the size of the software is underestimated. Next one is the risk analysis. In the risk analysis, we define the probability and seriousness of the each risk. Probability and seriousness of the each risk is in fact achieved through our experience. If we have past projects, if the particular risk arises in the past projects, then it is also chances that this risk will occur again. So that is, and also the effectiveness of the risk will be the same as it was in the past projects. Probability may be very low, moderate, high, or very high. This is the different sort of the probabilities. For example, very low means occurrence of chances are very low, low means occurrence of chances are low, and moderate is the medium probability risk, and high and very are high are very catastrophic sort of risk, and that the occurrence of chances are too much higher. Then we have the risk effects might be catastrophic, serious, tolerable, or insignificant. This is the effectiveness of the risk. If the risks are too much effective, that may be catastrophic. If also it is effective, that is serious. If it is the medium effective risk, then it is tolerable. Or it is not serious risk. If it occurs, we just well ignore that risk. That is the insignificant. Now this is the table where different risks are discussed, and there we have the probability and effectiveness of this particular risk. For example, organizational financial problem is very serious risk. That means suddenly if the organization goes into different sort of the losses, then it is the organization financial problem. For example, uh, similarly, Taj Kotab company has this problem. The organization totally, in fact, um, collapsed, and then we have different sort of the airlines due to the financial problem. Airlines are completely, in fact, stop their functioning. So this is the low. The probability of is quite low. That means it cannot occur so many times. The probability of this risk is very low, but effects are catastrophic. If this occurs, it will seriously affect the company. It is impossible to recruit staff with the skill required for the project. Effectiveness of this risk is high. If the well experienced and skillful team members are not available with us in the market, then its probability is very high. This is a high problem. and its effects is also catastrophic, right? So many times when we want to search for the particular skill for person, they always demand for the high salary. So always they prefer the good organization. This problem arises too much in the small organizations. So often, for example, the project with the low budget, this problem will arise. Always people work on a project with a good budget. Key staff are ill at critical times in the projects. So due to illness problems, if the key staff is not coming to join the project and they are ill, this is the moderate problem. It can be occur or it cannot be occur, but also its effects is very much serious as like the above risk. Software components that should be reused contain defects which limits their functionalities. If we are buying some built-in components from the web, for example, we are using the Google Map API. If they have some problems, then this is very much serious risk as well. The occurrence of this risk is moderate. That means that it is the medium types of risk by the probability, but the effect is very much serious. If it occurs, it will affect the project very seriously. Changes to requirements that require major design reworks are proposed. When we want to change the requirements, our major reverse is proposed. That means that suddenly customer comes with some new requirements, then the occurrence of this is moderate and its effects is very serious because we have to rework the full project again. The organization is restructured so that different management are responsible for the project. Suddenly the organization changes. The occurrence of this is also very high. In the daily life, in the different organization, we see that after 2 or 3 years, the organization's manager usually change, and also the tasks are usually changed among them. So the effectiveness of the risk, this risk on the project is also very serious. Okay, the database used in a system cannot process as many transactions as seconds as expected. For example, this is the tool risk and the database systems is not functioning properly. The probability of this risk is moderate and the effects is serious. The time required to develop the software is underestimated. If the time schedule that is required to develop the project is underestimated, then its probability is also very high and also effect is very serious. Now, case tools cannot be integrated. Computer-related software engineering tools cannot be integrated. Always this problem occurs. Its probability is very high, but it is tolerable because we can resolve these issues very easily. Customer fail to understand the impact of requirement change. So customer do not understand how the requirements can change the project. If the requirement changes, then it will seriously affect the project. But its occurrences is moderate, and but it is also tolerable because we can change the project at any time. Required training for the staff is not available. If there is certain hardware or softwares for which requirements we required a training sessions, so that is the moderate and also tolerable because you can use the YouTube for your new software as well. There are health management in different software, so that's why it is tolerable. You can easily learn the technology. The rate of different defects repair is underestimated. Rate of defect repair is underestimated. Here, the quality assurance personnel repair the defects and the rate is measured here properly. So it is the moderate, but it is tolerable. Tolerable means that we can in fact employ different people, more people on the defect repairing system. The size of the software is underestimated. If the size of the software is underestimated, this is high risk, but it is also tolerable. Right? The code generated by computer-aided software engineering tools is inefficient. It is also moderate, means that the code is inefficient, but it is insignificant because it requires in the time-oriented or mission-oriented system or mission-critical system, but um, efficiency is not much required in many softwares. Next one is the risk planning. here we will define different sort of the planes. So planning is in fact a particular set of guidelines that will be used to perform the tasks. So consider each risk and develop a strategy to manage that risk. For example, we have avoidance plans, minimization strategy are plan, and contingency plan. So in the avoidance plan, this will the probability that the risk will be arise is reduced. In the avoidance plan, we may reduce the effectiveness of the risk. Minimization based plan is that plan the impact of the risk on the project or product will be reduced. So this is the on the project and product. Project and product risk, and here the effectiveness of well can will be reduced. And contingency plan is that plans which is defined for very serious sort of the risk. If the risk arises, contingency plans are planned to deal with the risk. So if the contingency problems are the very much serious risk arises, then we have the contingency plans. Now, there are different sort of risk management strategies. Dear students, we have 26 minutes of this video. Now we will discuss the remaining slides in the next video. So keep watching my lectures. Thank you very much.